Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and today we continue with the Shadow Tech Goddess, Part 3, Chapter 5, the Lacerta's Pit. And we are hemming to the end of this little saga. We are on Part 3, Chapter 5. It only goes to Chapter 7, so with this one we have 3 left, plus a brief epilogue, and then we are done. We will be done. How about that? If you hung on this long, consider yourself most accomplished. You have accomplished something, and that is amazing, and I salute you. Last week, we finally arrived at the oft-spoken of but seldom seen Shrine of Boraster, and Captain Duval confirmed that he is a psychopath, wants to summon the Shadow Tech Goddess, and he wants to offer her the universe as like a gift, a lover's gift. Like, here, I love you. I'm offering you this universe for you to destroy, and we will rebuild it together. Assuming she doesn't kill him too with everyone else. The anatometers there are our boy, the anatometer, stolen in Clovis way back in Part 1, is here. Paymaster Stenstrom, after being brain buzzed by the Lacerta, gets his act together, is forced to put his hands on it, and sure enough, the Hall of Mirrors appears. And out comes a creepy personage, the Shadow Tech Goddess, and she's packing a wall of fear with her. Just freaks everybody out. But Captain Duval, being freaking nuts, endured the fear, offered her the dowry of the universe, and then she took his hand and walked back into the Hall of Mirrors with him, and then it disappeared. And that's where we are. Remember, there's the creepy, nasty K-lister crew, and they were spoiling to have their fun with poor old lady Lessa, crewman Lessa. She's, been sort of the hostage slash toy slash damsel in distress. Yes, those do happen sometimes. Paymaster Stenstrom had to spend a great deal of time protecting her previously, and he will be doing that again in this chapter. So, enough of my prattling on. Let's get to this. Part 3, Chapter 5, the Lacerta's Pit. When the Hall of Possibilities vanished, all within the shrine regained their senses. The K-listers muttered in an angry mob, raising fists and hoisting weapons. Stenstrom TK'd his nth pistols back to him. "Let's get that guy! Give us that bitch," one of them called. "And when we're done with her, we'll take our pleasure with him too." Stenstrom raised his ints and cocked them. "Then who dies first?" he shouted. He was picked up in a merciless TK and thrown to the ground. The Lacerta! Again. He struggled to break it. She drove her heel into his chest. He felt the dangling tails of her vuncula clacking together under her skirt several feet away. The crewman laid in a crumpled half-fetal position, absently covering her breasts. He had to get her to safety, and he had to turn the bloody knob and be away. "I'm gonna make you suffer for that explosion," she said. Furious, Stenstrom lay under her heel and struggled, his thrashing knocking her shoe loose. She kicked it aside and rammed her hot, sweaty foot into his face. "What? You trying to get me out of my shoes? Out of my clothes? Huh? Don't worry, hun. It's gonna happen soon enough. Don't you fuss." The K-listers congregated in an angry mob. "Let's kill the privateer and have our fun with the girl," one clamored. "His job is done and gone. We get triple the pay once he's dead. The captain said so." The Lacerta scrunched up her foot and shoved her stocking toes into his mouth. "No, boys. He's mine. He's gonna be my personal punching bag and sex toys, see? Doesn't that sound cool? Huh? You guys can have the chick. She clapped her skinny hands together and gazed greedily at Stenstrom. So what game are we gonna play first? Huh? She sent. A K-lister snuck up behind her while she was preoccupied and clamped some sort of crab-legged device on the back of her neck, right in the center. It penetrated all her layers of protection as the legs of the device bit into her flesh with a wretched crunch. What the fuck? The Lacerta gurgled in utter shock. And we get quintuple if you're dead too, the K-lister cried. The device came to hard life. Lights flashed. Minute turbines turned and exhausts howled. Flakes of crystallized blood pulsed out of tiny exhaust ports in a garish cloud, creating a miniature crimson snowstorm in her vicinity. Stenstrom had seen one of these devices before, in Zappin space. It was a Midas Hemolizer, a cruel device that could drain a full-grown man of blood in mere minutes. It was made of rare metals that could penetrate mental defenses like a Black Hat Stenfield or a Sister's TK. It was made to assassinate an unwary Black Hat, or even a Sister. The Lacerta screamed and stumbled about as if blindfolded. The K-lister sprang into action. Kill her! Kill him too! And let's feast on the little bitch! They cried. The K-listers came up, ripe with the euphoria that came with the passing of fear, and leveled their hot rifles. They pulled the triggers, and flaming red balls of plasma spewed out. The Lacerta, losing blood fast, in agony, rebounded and deflected the shots. One went into a group of K-listers standing nearby, killing several. She jumped in front of one K-lister and pulled the rifle from his hands before he could pull the trigger again. She grit her teeth and buzzed the man with full force. He clutched at his head and screamed, but didn't fall. A second K-lister came in, knife drawn, and attacked. She caught the knife and broke the man's arm in a gory display. Blood flowed from her neck in a dusty, chugging cloud. She stood there stupidly, wondering why the first man she'd buzzed wasn't dead. How could he not be dead? He also drew a knife from his belt and stabbed her in the shoulder as she killed the second man with his own knife. They went down in a heap, the Lacerta still only wearing one shoe. She buzzed him again, and this time something short-circuited on the man's temple in a flash and a puff of smoke. The man's features flickered, and a mask-like appliance covered with circuitry appeared over his face, sporting small holes for his eyes and nose. Ah, you're wearing a fucking face-catron, are you, you fucking fuck? She gripped his temples and pulled. You think that's gonna save you from me, huh? Do you, huh? Come on, give it to me. Give it to me, you piece of crap. The face-catron he was wearing came away bit by bit in a bloody peel, pulling off his skin and a layer of muscle with it. She tossed it aside, hoisted him up, and buzzed him again, and this time, with nothing to protect him from her power, a geyser of blood and greenish brain matter erupted from both of his ears. Enraged, she threw his dead body somewhere into a group of massing K-listers. Others came in, and she fought them all at once, swinging a hot rifle around like a club, caving in skulls, punching and snapping with her three vuncula tails, forming a perimeter of dead bodies around her. Keep at her, boys! The Hemolizer will have her down in no time, someone said. Like hell, she spat. The Lacerta spun about, trying to get at the Hemolizer. She reached up with her vuncula tails and grabbed onto it, pulling, smashing, desperate to get it off. The K-listers pressed in, hoping to overwhelm her. The Hemolizer malfunctions, sending tiny drills out the front of her neck and mouth in a twisting whine. Elsewhere, Stenstrom was desperate to get to the girl and take her to safety. She was deep in the masses of K-listers. He fired continuously with his Ents, dropping K-listers left and right. They returned fire, but Stenstrom moved fast, side to side, TKing over it, or in some cases, he just let the shots hit him, doing no damage. He lobbed red holy stones into their midst, setting fire to 4 and 5 at a time. One of his Ents malfunctioned. A cinnabar striker cracked. He sashed it and waved up a marzible dagger to split skulls and slit throats. There was a bountiful chaos in the shrine. Oaths shouted, dying screams, profanity uttered, and enraged mumbling mixed in with the crackling of multiple fires, the breaking of bones, and the mechanical drilling sound of the Hemolizer slow killing the Lacerta. Soon, the pile of death he left rivaled hers. The K-listers were on their J-rasters calling in backup. A grip car slewed into the shrine, the occupants whooping and hollering. Stenstrom learned to fight like a sister. He grabbed onto the rip car with TK and took control of it. The people aboard screamed in helpless terror as the ship picked up speed and height at his command. Stenstrom rode the craft into a far wall hard, and that was the end of that. Nearby, the Lacerta was still trying to deal with the Hemolizer attached to her neck, fought back against the onslaught. She darted with her tail, sabers emerged from the wrappings at her wrists. Heads and body parts flew. She set fire to the K-listers with her TK and worked her vuncula tails with lightning-quick strokes. Though she was a debauched, foul-mouthed pig, Stenstrom had to take a moment to admire her, fighting this lot all by herself, compromised as she was. And she was still wearing only one shoe. Stenstrom hacked and burned his way to the girl. Several remaining K-listers came running at him. Stenstrom methodically dispatched them, beating them to death with his fists. Hey, hey, hey! Get over here and help me! The Lacerta yelled from behind, surrounded by attacking crew. Help me with these fuckers! You and me, come on! Flashes of gunfire danced across the shrine. He scooped up the crewmen and TK'd fast into the air, the tails of his HRN spreading out around him like wings. Several plasma shots came up from below. He answered with his remaining imp. Down below, the floor looked like a confused dance. A few remaining K-listers running about, and the lone Lacerta fighting them with a gusher of blood spraying out amid pockets of fire and smoke. She TK'd out of the shrine and down the long corridor. There was the suborbital and the ledge to the outside. Clear stars twinkled in the sky. It all seemed rather peaceful. The suborbital was packed with hastily assembled goods from the ship. He made space and placed the girl in the suborbital and checked her over. She was scratched and partially catatonic, but she was alive. Drawing his second nth, he replaced the cracked striker. Stay here, miss. I'll be back shortly. You should be safe here. She blinked and turned her cloudy gaze to him. She weakly held out her hand for him to take. I'll be right back, and then we're leaving. Stay here. He launched himself back down the long corridor into the shrine. It was eerily quiet, like the uneasy hush of a drunken lull after a particularly wild party. There were bodies everywhere, and in every sort of position, most supine on the floor. Some were on fire, some were crushed, some were collapsed down into tiny box-like shapes. The rip car he'd ridden into the wall was still stuck there like a squashed fly. And the center of all this carnage was the Lacerta, face down, her lacy clothes shredded and burned, her vuncula destroyed, bloody saber sprouting from her wrists, and crystallized blood still coming out of the battered Hemolizer in fitful crimson puffs. She was still wearing just one shoe. She seemed to be alive, though just barely. She groped at the Hemolizer on her neck, her saber scraping on the floor. She couldn't reach it. She offered him a hint of a toothy smile. Sorry, darling. I think I'm too tired to fuck tonight, Kay. We'll do it tomorrow. Put on something nice for you. Stenstrom stashed his ints. She was on the verge of death. Despite himself, he couldn't leave her like that. She had fought a horde of K-listers while being drained of blood. She'd fought well, and she deserved a bit of consideration. She looked up weakly. her makeup smeared into a harlequin nightmare, her hair a mess. Her lenses were smashed. The stumps of her vuncula tails wavered. He knelt down and examined the hemolyzer on her neck. It was dug in, deformed, smashed, but still operating at a greatly diminished level, doggedly chugging out fitful puffs of powdered blood. It whined in an unsteady fashion like a dental drill. "You son of a bitch," she gurgled. He saw the rugged and simple construction of the device. It would be difficult to destroy by crushing or smashing, as the Lacerta had tried. It wasn't really designed to come off. The best way to get it off was by manipulating its locking mechanism. He produced his lockpicks and set to work. The Lacerta chattered in a slow mumble. "I'm going to make you my bitch," she said as he worked. "It's gonna be good, you know? Huh? It's gonna be real good." "Keep quiet and stop squirming," he said. With bloody hands, she tried to grab him. He pushed her hands away. Delirious, she babbled. "I got this fortress out there. I took it from a Zaffin warlord. He was a real pussy, you know, he and his crew, so I took it, his fortress, and I hung him out on a stake somewhere, I don't remember. I got this nice pit up in the courtyard, chains and mildew and everything. Now that's a dungeon you can be proud of. I'm gonna put you in that pit. When I wanna fuck, I'm gonna get you out and we'll fuck. When I wanna fight, I'll get you out and we'll fight like fucking gladiators or something. Might even invite my friends over, you know, to let them see what I got in my pit." She spoke in a dreamy fashion, as if this horrid slave pit she was describing was some lovely vacation spot she looked forward to visiting. "I said be quiet. You fought well and deserve to be treated like a warrior, so save your strength, sit back, keep your foul mouth shut. Perhaps you'll walk away from this and return to your stolen holdings someday. However, don't expect a visit from me." He got through the locking mechanism and pulled the hemolyzer away from her skin, exposing an indentation and several gory holes. It had inserted a number of wires and drills into her neck. He worked them out one by one. The Lacerta refused to stay quiet. "My bitch. You're gonna be my bitch. If you want to save me, go ahead, that's on you. You're gonna be in my pit. You're gonna dance for me and my fucking friends. And then maybe we'll fall in love or some crazy shit like that. What do you think? Huh?" The hemolyzer was off. He tossed it aside. She continued. "I'm gonna kill your woman, and then I'm gonna put you in my goddamn pit," she said. She blinked, her eyes glassy. Her death seemed near. "Hey, mister," she whispered. "Mister?" He couldn't hear what she was saying. Hearing a person's last words was an important duty in Belmont, even for an enemy. He leaned in to listen. Whoosh! One of her vuncula tails, undamaged, shot up, its beak covered in slimy salve, possibly some hideous tranquilizer or poison. It went for his neck like a scorpion's tail, applying a killing blow to an intended victim. He caught it cold, its beak inches from his neck, and with the sister's strength, he pulled the metal tail apart and tossed it aside. "Ah, shit," she groaned. Enraged, he pulled her up by the scruff of her neck and raised his fist to hit her. She was flaccid in his hands, neck lolled, mouth open, arms limped at her side, her face slathered in sweat. The Lacerta was defenseless. There was no fight left in her. "What'd you do that for?" she whispered. "Just wanted to knock you out and take you to the pit. Yo? Hit me.
Go ahead. Hit me. Make it hurt. I want you to hurt me.
He let her go, and she slumped back down, nudging against the other dead bodies around her. He'd wasted enough time. He'd done his duty for a fellow warrior. There was the antimatter on its pedestal. He'd come all this way. Now it was time to turn the knob. He placed his hands on it, and the Hall of Possibilities returned. He tried to turn the knob, but it was gone. Where was it? Blast! Where in creation was the bloody knob? What had Alesta said? The Shadow Tech Goddess stole it. The Shadow Tech Goddess was in her lair now, with Duval and the antimatter's knob, and he would have to walk the Hall of Possibilities and fetch it. Ince drawn, he walked across the shrine and went in, the cold of the stone closing in around him like a dank cave. He turned to his right and went down the corridor. Duval and the Shadow Tech Goddess and his knob were down there somewhere in the darkness, waiting for him. And with that, we conclude Part 3, Chapter 5, The Lacerta's Pit. So a couple things. If you hung out for the Bloodstein readings, which you should, because they're good, if I do say so myself. You remember the Wonderlux tried a similar trick on Sam, Lady Sammy Doran. She's big and strong and tough, Monoma through and through, and she's beating these Wonderlux up. But one of them managed to get a hemolyzer on her neck, and it started spewing her blood all over the place. Those things are pretty nasty, and they can kill you pretty quick. And Sam instantly, lost her strength and was in great distress. And King, the little silver tech kingfisher, had to, fly through it, peck it off the back of her neck. It almost killed Sam. And same with the Lacerta here, and it's made of metals that are supposed to be able to penetrate Black Hat Sten field. If you remember, if you've ever read the earlier League of Elder books, the Sten is like a electrified force field that Black Hats can create around them. But there are certain metals that can pass right through it, and that's what this hemolyzer is made out of. It also passes through the Sisters TK, so it's intended to be an assassination device meant to kill Black Hats and Sisters. How nice! And it was doing a number on the Lacerta there. Paymaster Stenstrom managed to get it off of her just before it killed her, and she's talking about this crazy pit she's got. She appropriated a fortress out there someplace from some Zaffin warlord, and it had a pit in the courtyard. And since he's got the Pell programmability, this Lacerta can smell that, and she's just all over him. Just says, I want to take you and make you my toy, put you in my pit, and I'll get you out whenever I want. I'm working on another Shadow Tech Goddess book. It's called The All-in-One, and in it, we actually, in a different universe, we actually see the Lacerta had captured Paymaster Stenstrom and had him in her pit. Was doing all kinds of horrible things to him. So that does exist out there somewhere, pleasant as that might sound. And then, if you recall, Paymaster Stenstrom's entire goal in going to the Shrine of Boraster was to get to the antimatter and finish turning the knob. The knob has to be turned 7 times. He's only turned it once, so he's got 6 more turns he's got to do. But hearken, he gets to the antimatter and the knob is gone. So he's got to... And you can't just stick a straight screwdriver in there. No, you need the knob. You got to have the knob. So... apparently, the Shadow Tech Goddess took it. That's where we end off next week. Part 3, Chapter 6, The Shadow Tech Goddess, where we finally square off with this mythical lady that we've been hearing about over and over. Apparently, he already met her in the Garden of Horrors, but he doesn't believe that was actually the Shadow Tech Goddess. And if you've read the cat books, you know exactly who that person was. So next week, if that's the case, then next week... we're going to meet the real McCoy. Yeah. It's going to be good. I promise. And as I said, next week, Chapter 6, there's only 7 chapters, so we're almost done, plus a brief epilogue. Put a nice little bow on this story and send it on its way. Until then, this is Ren Presents. I am your host, Ren. Peace out.